it's supposed to be a big day. Today will be the day of the third non-confidence vote within our government. It was teased last Thursday that it was supposed to happen, but I guess it was just the motion. Today is the actual vote. Today should be quite interesting. Speaking of interesting things, breaking news. Over the weekend, the Syria government has officially fallen. Syria as a whole, most likely right now in pure chaos. You got a lot of different groups, a lot of different religious groups, extremist groups within Syria that want a piece of the pie. I do believe it is going to be an absolute nightmare there. It's been an absolute nightmare in the Middle East for a very long time. And I don't know why anybody is really shocked, but this is most likely not going to make things any better. Was Assad a good person? Probably not. Probably not at all. But are the people that are going to get into power any better? No. As a matter of fact, from what I've read, there are people like Al-Qaeda. Not good, obviously, but hey, what can you do? Not much when it comes to the Middle East, because like I said, it's an absolute nightmare, and I don't think anything over there will change anytime soon. Trudeau got community noted. What an idiot. You can only lie so many times. The fact checkers. Oh my god, Justin Trudeau just got community noted. Thank you, Elon Musk. In 2 weeks, you'll be paying less for groceries at the register. Canadians are getting a tax break starting December 14th. The community note. Most groceries are already exempt of GST. What an absolute idiot. And I think it's even worse that people believe him. People are kind of falling for this air quotation tax break. Sure, in 2 weeks you might be paying 2% less on certain items, but after those 2 months are up, you'll be paying tenfold as the government sits there wanting to recoup everything they lost over those 2 months. Although it might not seem like a lot, but nationwide, they will lose millions and millions of dollars by removing this tax, which apparently most items, specifically groceries, are already exempt from, which I think is kind of funny. All this time, they were boosting up this tax break. You guys will be paying less on groceries. You'll be paying less on alcohol and essential items like diapers. Little do people know that's already exempt. So nothing is really going to change there. Just another sham in the list of shams that the liberal Trudeau government wants to push on you. I, quite frankly, I'm tired of it. I don't know about you guys. I'm tired of this smug POS lying through his teeth over and over again. And the lies have become so incredibly blatant that the community noters come out and say, guess what, buddy? It's time to go. Obviously, the big news of today, it's been the only thing I've been thinking about. Trudeau Liberal set to face third Conservative non-confidence vote. Obviously, the sad reality is the NDP are not going to back it at all. This confidence vote is most likely going to fail, like the previous two have failed. We'll probably continue to see the absolute circus continue that it is. The Liberals are set to face a third non-confidence vote on Monday, aka today, but the government is likely to survive with the support of the NDP. Members of Parliament are supposed to vote on a motion that quotes NDP leader Jagmeet Singh's criticisms of the Liberals and asks the House to agree with Singh and vote to bring down the government. Pierre Poilievre, a couple days ago, I think it was before question period, actually it was the day he motioned he motioned this vote to happen. He read out an entire list of things that Jagmeet had said, trying to oust the Liberals himself. Jagmeet is just a hypocrite. We all know this. We all know this about the NDP. The NDP selling out for Justin Trudeau. There's Jagmeet himself. The guy who claims that Justin Trudeau is no longer fit as leader. God, he's such a loser. Jagmeet is a loser. Alright, here we go.
I declare the motion defeated.
I see that the honourable member...
We all knew that was gonna happen. Pure disappointment.
Vote to point out that members are not allowed to come and go during the vote. I did note that the NDP leader came in right in the middle of the vote, having missed the fact that that the vote was on his own words. Would you please call him to order for having had his team vote against his own words?
Whoa.
I see that the honourable member from New Westminster, Burnaby is also rising on his feet.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. That's very rich coming from the Leader of the Opposition, who has left this House during his own motions in Opposition Day and refused to vote. As you know, Mr. Speaker, it is proper...
Colleagues, I very patiently listened to the member from the official opposition. I'd like to hear the honourable member from New Westminster, Burnaby. I didn't catch the last little bit of his comment.
Yeah, the vote just happened and it got denied. It got shut down. Not surprising because of the sellouts you see on the screen here.
Questions.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Just before Christmas, snow is a-falling. Finally, the Minister will table her economic statement after this Prime Minister has doubled our national debt, adding more to our debt than all former Prime Ministers combined. He's doubled the cost of housing with bureaucracy that has been hampering building. He's doubled the number of people who have to go to a food bank with taxes on food. We're asking for one thing. Stop tax increases. Stop inflationary spending. Stop adding debt to Canadians.
No, Trudeau is not here. Believe it or not, he's getting photo ops in Halifax. I'm not even making that up. He's getting pictures done with some meeting in Halifax.
Record, and we'll present it on the 16th of December, so next week. We will talk about our record on the economy. Inflation is within targets put forward by the Bank of Canada. The Bank of Canada's key interest rate has gone down 4 times consecutively, and that is our economic record, and we're very proud of it. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. He's so proud of this statement that he wants to bury it in snow, Mr. Speaker. We want them to stop. Stop taxing people. We want them to eliminate GST on new home build, which would be one way of stopping inflationary taxes that have led to a costly life in Canada. We want promises to be kept. The Minister said that deficits would not go beyond $40 billion. Will she respect that promise, yes or no?
40 billion. Oh my God.
The Honourable Minister for Human Resources and Energy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We know that housing costs too much, and that is the reason for which we have eliminated sales tax for apartments. Canada is building at record rates. We have built more housing than when the Leader of the Opposition was the Minister for Housing, and we are seeing results. The cost of rent has gone down this year in big metropolitan areas like Montreal. The Conservative leader wants to bring back taxes on building. His plan will increase the cost of housing.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, after doubling the debt with inflationary spending, doubling the cost of housing with more bureaucracy that blocks building, doubling the number of people using food banks with carbon taxes on farmers and truckers who bring us our food. Finally, they're planning a fall update, but they'll do it in the snow on December 16th. Our message is stop.
Yes.
Stop the inflationary spending. Stop the tax increases on food and homes. Stop indebting Canadians. Will they please just stop?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, on the 16th of December, we will present our economic record in this chamber, and we will talk about the fall economic statement. And I anticipate that you're going to hear a lot about the economic record that we've amassed. One thing that I anticipate you'll hear about is what we've done with respect to childcare. On childcare, an economic affordability model, we've brought it down to $10 a day in 8 provinces. That has resulted in 110,000 women joining the workplace. What is that record, Mr. Speaker? 85% of women are now participating in the workforce in Canada. That is a record high. That is what we stand behind on this side of the House.
Shut up, Varani.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, what they've amassed is a lot of debt. In fact, they doubled the debt. This Prime Minister has added more debt than all prior Prime Ministers combined, which has caused the worst inflation in 40 years, inflation that is now rising as the debt is rising. Now, the Finance Minister said that she had a guardrail for the deficit. It would not go beyond $40 billion. If you go up to $40 billion, that means you've hit the guardrail. And if you go higher than $40 billion, you've gone through the guardrail. What's on the other side of a guardrail? A cliff.
Yeah.
Is this minister leading us off the cliff?
We're already off the cliff, Pierre.
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Let's talk about the spending that our government is doing. Let's talk about what observers are observing. Tiff Macklem, I'm pretty sure he knows who that is. The governor of the Bank of Canada says we're no longer trying to get inflation
God,
down.
what the hell was
Government
that?
spending is not pushing against getting inflation down. We have already brought it down. Let's talk about David Dodge, the former.
Varani's speaking so much bullshit his microphone couldn't handle it.
He said because it was obsessively focused on reducing the federal deficit over fiscal years 2011 to 2016, the Harper government unnecessarily contributed to a slower rather than a more muted recovery. We're not going to follow that playbook because it didn't work.
And ask colleagues to please not take the floor so that we can hear the answer to the question clearly. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, in the spirit of nonpartisanship, we have put forward a motion inspired by the leader of the NDP.
That's right.
He has said that this Prime Minister is weak, is greedy, is selfish, and is beholden to corporate interests.
Sounds like Jagmeet's talking about himself.
Has violated the rights of workers. So we took the NDP leader's words, we put it in a motion that includes non-confidence. Will the Prime Minister allow this NDP leader a free vote so that he can vote non-confidence?
Hey, let's get it going. Get the damn vote going. Karina, what do you have to say? I honestly don't want to hear her, but she's standing.
See, that is stretching the limits, of course, of question dealing with the administration of government, but I see that the Honourable Government House Leader is on her feet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One thing we know, Mr. Speaker, is that the Leader of the Opposition certainly doesn't allow any free votes for his members of Parliament. And what we also know is that he doesn't allow them to speak for themselves. What we do know is that when they put forward, try to advocate for their communities, what does he say? No, don't do that, because I don't think it's politically expedient for me. So what he does do is muzzle his own MPs, doesn't allow them to have free votes, and keeps them from standing up for their communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Saint-Maxime School is in the news for prayers in class, homophobic comments, and students rejecting sex education in classes, among other things. The Quebec government has had enough of attacks upon secularism. It is asking Ottawa to put an end to religious exemptions in the criminal code and wants to tighten up Bill 21 on secularism. Ottawa's doing the opposite. It's challenging Bill 21. It's just beat around the bush about religious exemptions. When will this government stop undermining secularism in Quebec? The Honourable Minister for Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleague no doubt knows that education is a provincial matter. If he wants to talk about education and the way to protect children in the school system in Quebec, then he has to turn to Quebec City. This forum isn't quite where education is discussed. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Quebec is a welcoming society that extends its arms to those who...
A welcoming society! Oh, oh, oh my God. Oh, wow. What a fucking joke.
The right to love whoever we want. Canadian multiculturalism says the opposite. There's no need to integrate, no need to adhere to any values. Don't change a thing about yourselves. Does the federal government realize that its multiculturalism is harming the integration of new Quebecers and harming Quebec's ability to live together?
You don't even want to be here in Canada, so why don't you just go?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unity is exactly what the Canadian Federation is encouraging, and that's why in Canada and in Quebec we are proud of being a united party that defends the rights and freedoms of everyone so that they can do what they believe is right for them. Once again, Mr. Speaker, education is a provincial matter, so we ask our colleague to turn to Quebec City instead of here about education.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
Imagine this. A woman in her 70s, she's worked her whole life, raised her kids, done everything right. Now she's retired.
And now you've thrown her under the bus for your pension.
And she's got to skip meals. The Prime Minister believes that someone earning $140,000 a year deserves a check of $250, but that she doesn't. Why?
Here, here.
Here, here.
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, we're going to stand by our record of defending seniors. On multiple occasions in this chamber over the last 9 years, we've done things like change the retirement age from 67, as proposed by the Harper Conservatives, back down to 65. We've made targeted investments to improve old age security for those over the age of 75. Most recently, we put in place a dental care plan for seniors that has had, despite assertions by the Conservatives that it doesn't even exist, 2
All right, Varani needs a new microphone.
million people actually receive services for the first time in decades. That's a record of serving seniors and assisting seniors and meeting them where they are. We'll stand by that record.
Maybe just mute him so we don't have to hear it ever again.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
Mentioned that the minister didn't answer the question why they don't deserve checks of $250.
Imagine someone else living with disabilities, someone who can't make ends meet. The Prime Minister believes that this person doesn't need a helping hand. Will the Prime Minister finally see sense and include people with disabilities in their $250 check? The Honourable Minister for Justice. The measures that we have made on this side of the House targets poverty and targets helps people living with disabilities. We've added a benefit for them and them alone. What we want to do over the last few weeks is to make changes to GST that will help all Canadians. We'll always fight against poverty, and numbers show that we have managed to do so with a reduction in the poverty rates in Canada. Thank you.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Today, the NDP leader has a chance to prove that he didn't sell out Canadian workers for his own pension. Now, he famously promised Canadians that he ripped up his coalition with the Liberals, saying they, quote, were too weak, too selfish, and too beholden to corporate interests to fight for people. Now, Conservatives agree, and Canadians want a carbon tax election. So, will the Prime Minister allow the NDP leader to vote for his own words, or did the PM whip the NDP vote to block a carbon tax election?
I'm afraid that question doesn't, again, meet the relevance of the administration of government. I do see the government House leader rising to answer. Colleagues, couple of things. One, let's just make sure that when someone has the floor, that no one else is taking the floor. And B, colleagues, I would hate for us to repeat what had gone on Friday. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you mentioned, there was actually no question for the government there. But if the member opposite wants to talk about pensions, he could talk about the pension of the leader of the opposition, who, because he's been here for 2 decades, is estimated at being about $2 million, Mr. Speaker. And if he wants to talk about muzzling of members of Parliament, he should probably pose the question to the leader of his own party, who doesn't like MPs that don't ask the questions that he wants them to ask. In fact, we see all of them around the outskirts of the Conservative area in this House of Commons. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Well, it looks like this Prime Minister has lost control of everything except his control over the NDP. Now, according to the NDP leader's own words, quote, "You're never going to count on us if you're going to take away the rights of the workers. Never." Now, we've seen that this Prime Minister has done just that, ordering binding arbitration. But the question is, what has this Prime Minister promised to the NDP in exchange for their support for his failing government and his failed carbon tax?